Welcome to Lockbox, a podcast providing real estate professionals with action items for success. My name is Jeffrey Brogger, and I'm going to be your host. I'm the founder of two real estate marketing and tech companies, STEEZY.Digital and realnurture.io. In this podcast, you'll learn from top 1% real estate and mortgage brokers the exact secrets to their success. Welcome to Lockbox. Hello, welcome to Lockbox. My name is Jeffrey Brogger, and I'm here today with Tabitha Mazzara. Tabitha, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me today, Jeffrey.
Absolutely. So why don't you kick it off and tell our listeners, who you are, where you're from?
I run operations at Mortgage Bank of California. We are a boutique mortgage bank located in Manhattan Beach, California. And we do a lot of really fantastic things for our portfolio borrowers in the NonQM space.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll dive into all the things that you have going on today. But first, what got you into the real estate industry?
So I'm a mortgage brat. My mother really roped me into this industry, and I did it kicking and screaming as a teenager. And now I am the most grateful person imaginable, because it's just such a fantastic, vast industry. I mean, I love it. I'm passionate about it. So I thank her.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. And I've heard military brat, but I haven't heard mortgage brat.
I'm a mortgage
I like that. I like that a lot. So to give our listeners context to Mortgage Bank of California and where you're at right now, what kind of transaction volume have you done in the last year? And then I have some follow-up questions based on that.
Absolutely. So we're facilitating between $70 and $80 million a month in mortgage assets. We specialize in portfolio and non-QM lending. And we do get into the agency stuff a little bit, certainly well skilled enough to, but we decided to move in a different direction when we saw a market shift about 5 years ago. And, we're currently in the process of doing everything we can to serve as many clients as possible, borrowers. We are 100% retail origination. So we're pretty unique to this space, which they're calling non-QM, portfolio lending. Really serves the self-employed entrepreneur, the self-employed borrower, the jumbo loan that doesn't quite fit the box that's been created for those types of assets. We probably do about 70% purchase money mortgages. So we have a lot of, realtor, relationships. We do our very best to assist in facilitating, those transactions timely and with ease, try to let everybody have a good time when they're buying a new home and when there can be a lot of pressure and tension. So we take a really holistic and unique approach to it. So speaking about volume, we're working on plugging in additional operatives and leveraging some technology to assist us in scaling our platform. But we want to make sure we don't compromise our service levels to anyone involved in our transactions. So we're doing that slowly.
Sounds very cutting edge, like you're really working towards being an innovative offering in the space. You mentioned 5 years ago you made this shift. Was the shift towards non-QM? Was that really the focus?
Yeah. The shift is towards non-QM.
And is that because Manhattan Beach housing prices are well over $1 million and just everything in that area being jumbo? And I have a big focus on self-employed, being a business owner myself. So I definitely want to talk about that. But I'm curious kind of what thought process went into the non-QM approach. Was it more so the jumbo loans, or was it also that, Silicon Beach, there's so many entrepreneurs and all of them are qualified, but in the check the box type of lending, they're not, right? It's really difficult. You have to show P&Ls for the last 2 years, corporate as well as personal taxes. You have to show so much more than a W-2. So I'm curious to really boil down the question, was it more so the jumbo loan, or was it more so the self-employed that pushed you towards non-QM?
I think it started with the self-employed entrepreneur and just understanding that that was a super underserved marketplace.
Totally is.
Like in the current mortgage market. I think it's been hyper focused on facilitating transactions, like making it really transactional and really leveraging technology to facilitate the mortgage loan. And I believe in technology, and I believe that we have to constantly be growing and evolving and moving, with our marketplace, and to be competitive, but for the borrower's benefit. When it's moving in that direction and it becomes more beneficial to the organization, to the lender, I find that problematic. So we try to find a good balance. So the determining factor was really to serve a community of, consumers that really needed someone to pay attention, a professional to step in. And, there's many of us, but, we again take this really holistic, unique approach to imparting technology and developing practical technology and systems while maintaining the integrity of the relationship, which is really necessary because, the non-QM consumer is like a fingerprint. They're all different. So you can't fit them in a box. They can't run through an automated underwriting system. Certain things you can leverage technology to facilitate, and certain things you can. As you see that Fannie has, they're so far into the development of the, of the DU, and it took them like 35 years to get where they are. It doesn't happen overnight. And that's really custom tailored to facilitate a transaction that really fits in their box, which I understand. It's brilliant. It's amazing for the consumer that fits into Fannie's box and they can just press buttons. They don't have to talk to anyone. There's a ton of these, young, people in the gig economy and, really developing even entrepreneurs that understand and they don't want to talk to people. That's wonderful. And there's others that really do need that interaction in order to gain a comfort level or to be for their financing. So I think it's brilliant what Fannie did, but it just doesn't work in jumbo non-QM portfolio lending, not on that scale, So I really looked at that and I felt really passionate about, getting into it and innovating that subsection of the mortgage marketplace. So that's my story.
Well, I love to hear it. I was speaking with a loan officer a couple weeks ago on this podcast. It's probably going to be released pretty soon. And I mentioned, which I've said many times before, the self-employed market is totally underserved. And if someone can figure out a lending product for the self-employed business owner, then they'll be able to really see a lot of success in that area, because a lot of them make more money than they used to, but on paper, it kind of looks like they're broke because they write off a lot, right? and they can go through this process of having the expenses applied to their income first, and then you don't pay taxes on it, right? It's smart. But through that, then you become less creditworthy to go buy the house that you feel like you would be able to buy at this stage in your life. So it's a really interesting conundrum where, as a self-employed individual, someone like myself would end up paying extra taxes for 2 years in a row on purpose to then try and buy something 3 years out. So it becomes this really interesting situation. So with that being said, glad to hear that there's someone out there that also sees this and with the resources to create or at least facilitate lending products that can serve the self-employed and the business owners. That's music to my ears. I love that.
Yeah.
So
I think, you said something really interesting that, what will happen to the entrepreneur, the self-employed person, is they'll have to go ahead and go through this whole process of staging their income properly in order to be considered for approval. And, that's a really interesting point because, people hear non-QM and they get really nervous about things like risk mitigation and the marketplace being, really moving in the wrong direction, opening up these, cash flow. Because when you're approving someone based cash flow in their business and not looking at a tax return, it's so legitimate. Like I see everything a person does. I see, whether they eat fast food, them or their wife or their partner shop at like, Nordstrom or Bloomingdale's or JCPenney's. Like, I mean, I can tell you their whole story after I review someone's bank statements and their credit report. It's wild. Like
I know.
I really get to know them in such an intimate way, myself, my underwriters. It's so, so interesting. And I actually feel like it takes the risk out of the asset that you're, creating, because you really intimately know this person, their habits. You're not just looking at a tax return, following, some formula that's been, given to you. No, you're digging in, you're getting to know your borrower. And I think on so many levels, that's so important. Also on the risk side, because you can tell if somebody has bad habits, they have bad habits. You're seeing, non-sufficient funds in their accounts. You're seeing them go into overdraft every month. You're watching them spend more money than they should, or maybe investing more than they should at certain times. So it's really amazing. It's very, very cool to be involved in. And again, from a risk management perspective, I love it. I prefer it, actually.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I remember a mentor of mine said, if you want to find out what someone cares about, just review their credit card statement.
It's true.
It's so telling,
It is so telling. So yeah. We enjoy that.
That's awesome. So being an entrepreneur yourself, someone are you currently, by the way, side conversation, are you currently working with your mom? Did she bring you in and you're working together?
So I worked with my mom for many, many years. And we used to call her like Mother Mortgage. I mean, she was like a walking guideline, a complete enigma.
Encyclopedia, just
oh my God,
could answer any question. Yeah.
And she was an innovator. I mean, she started in a male-dominated industry. This is in the 80s, where we didn't have, the regulations that we have now. So it really, the way you chose to transact in the 80s in the mortgage market was really a testament to your personal and professional integrity, because you had a lot of control at that point. And I can say I'm very, very proud, and I feel very fortunate to have been raised by her, because her professional integrity and, how she transacted with her clients was really incredible. And it left a, lasting mark on me. It's part of my fiber, because she raised me that way in this business, and she was very customer service minded. She took personal accountability for each transaction she was involved with. And she did more volume than all of the men that she was, like working with, her colleagues. Like she always had to be on top. It was amazing to watch. She was on the floor of the stock exchange when one of the, banks she represented went public. She was a pioneer.
Wow.
Really amazing.
Shout out to mom.
Yeah. So now she's retired and she's hanging out with my kids, so I can work 16 hours a day. It's great.
Awesome. The cycle continues. So
it does.
I'm curious, you must have learned a lot from your mom and then throughout your own journey of personal development and entrepreneurship. So what is the single most important action that you take on a daily basis that attributes most to your success?
I would say every day I approach it with passion and with the mindset of providing a really important service. So I'm very service minded. I understand that, every client has different needs, and I really go out of my way to make sure that I meet those needs. And, it's not a matter of, hey, it would really be smarter for me to ensure that my resources were allocated in a really structured way. But I don't buy into that. So I really approach every single day with gratitude for every client that entrusts us with their transaction. And that, it's our company's perspective. It's become who we are, and I love that. And I think it speaks to, I might do 30 million less a month than, my competitor, but I'll love every minute of what I do. And, I'll ensure that I try to provide the best possible experience. And, I feel like it gives everyone in our organization as well, like all my colleagues, I feel like it gives them a really good perspective and a way to approach their day, so I don't know. We're like the Disneyland of mortgages here. It's great.
That's an amazing slogan. Have you already used that in marketing or anything? I think that's a fantastic headline, honestly.
No, welcome
to the happiest place in mortgage.
Yeah. No, it's funny, but it's legitimate. It's organic. I mean, no loan left behind, and I know that's like something people use a lot, but we really mean it. So I don't care if it's a $200,000 loan, which, by the way, our average loan size is like at least $1.1 million. And we're licensed in 26 states. So it's not just Southern California, although, yes, we have a lot of large loans in this area. So the point is, I never look at that. I never even consider it. So I think one of the most important things that I do all day, every day, is I respect and understand how vital what we do is. And I really leave it all on the field. I exhaust myself to ensure that every individual that sits in my office, is acknowledged, that everyone is, recognized if they have a need. I have loan officers, processors, underwriters, QC firms. I mean, all day long, just kind of, powering off at me. And I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to do that. So I think gratitude and passion would be
That's exactly how I was going to summarize it. You've said gratitude multiple times, and you started that answer with passion, passionately waking up every day, knowing that we're doing something important, making a difference. So love that. Yeah. And really that is the way to build relationships in business today. So thank you for, expressing that and just living it, right? Because you can tell that it's authentic. So now I want to dive into the topic of lead generation, because everyone out there in the real estate industry, leads are like water. I mean, you can't survive without new business, new leads coming in. So I'm curious first, like what's the percentage of referral business to business generated from new lead sources? And then I have some follow-up questions.
I'm not the best person to speak on that in our organization. I can definitely give you some light. I'm part of the committee that makes these decisions, but we have a marketing department and a platform within our organization. So our CTO, who's my business partner, his background is in marketing.
Nice.
And so we're really, really fortunate to have him. Sometimes it gets kind of strange because, it's the shoemaker that has holes in his shoes, so it's like,
absolutely,
he's so involved in every aspect of our business that I often say to him, and he gets crazy, maybe we should hire someone to do this stuff and then you can just manage it. And he huffs away, fine, but no, it's a really robust marketing platform. It's multifaceted, I think hyper-focused on social media, which is, what's going on right now. And, we run multiple realtor campaigns. We do some large trade shows throughout the country, realtor shows, and we do a lot of purchase business. So we do have realtor relationships and they do refer business here, knowing that we'll make sure to service their client, facilitate the transaction. And, I think we could probably get better at that. I think we could get better at really working toward building a better referral platform. We're working on it all the time. But Desh, who he's our CTO, my business partner, and he runs our marketing platform, he could speak more in depth to percentages and, exactly how it functions. I think I might not be the best one to get into detail there. He would tell me, it's a PPC platform. I don't know what he's talking about. That's the truth.
Absolutely. But I know what you mean about, the shoemaker that has holes in his shoes, or the plumber that has the leaky faucet at his house. Like, you get so involved in so many different areas of your business or your clients that oftentimes the business itself or the area that you're the most expert in can suffer, which is ironic. So I was curious to learn that and hear that from you. But it seems like you're working on referrals from realtors. Are you also working on referrals from loan officers that don't do non-QM loans?
We haven't. There's a lot untapped. And one of the reasons why is because, as we discussed earlier, resources are, challenging, and I won't compromise our service levels. So in recent, with the mortgage market being so busy, right, it's really hard to secure really well-skilled talent. And, our culture is really unique and different than most mortgage banks. And it's not just a matter of skill set to be a part of our environment. It's also a matter of perspective. No one here pushes paper. Everyone here is vital to the organization. What they bring is vital to the organization. And we're really careful about, tapping into additional, markets additional streams of business, I should say, because we want to scale properly. That service is really important, right? So if I make a representation to someone and then I can't come through, that's not the right thing to do, but they'll never talk to me again. So, and that's not what we're trying to create, but it's brilliant. And I would like to do it for the sole purpose of, really ensuring that people know there are options. They're not in a holding pattern. They're not waiting 2 years to file their tax returns and make sure their income is, exactly what it needs to be in order to be approved. So I would love to be able to facilitate additional loans. And we're working on that. We're working on scaling. We're always hiring. But yeah, that's the answer to that one.
Got it. Yeah. So it seems like the more of the bottleneck as opposed to leads is high quality talent in the organization to be able to take care of the clients to the standards and the degree that you've set.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And with most of my clients, it's like three things. On the real estate side, it's listings, buyers, and then recruiting. And on the the MLO side, it's buyers, refinance, or depending on their goals, those might be interchanged. Purchase, refinance, and then recruiting. So recruiting is on both sides, and it's super important. So gotta have that talent to be able to facilitate the growth and the new leads and everything that's going on.
Absolutely. It's interesting, but when I interview someone, we really get in depth in the conversation, really to tap into their overall mortgage IQ. And then I want to get to know who they are, to understand their personal integrity as well as their professional integrity. And one of the first things we talk about is, how do they approach a loan that's in their queue? How do they review a purchase contract? And, how do they deal with, ensuring that you're hitting each milestone, each deadline within that contract? Are you tracking your contingency removal dates? Are you communicating with realtors on all sides? Does everybody know that you're there for them with questions? And, I can't tell you, 9 out of 10 people say to me, what's a contingency removal? And I'm like, what? You're a mortgage professional? What's a contingency removal? Only one of the most important things in your transaction. And it's it's a seller's market. Buyers are really, fighting for the same property. And, you really do your client a disservice, and the realtors alike who have put so much time, marketing money, energy, into these transactions. And it's very challenging for us because, again, somebody needs to have a pretty significant mortgage IQ, but also a practical understanding of what we do, what our purpose is. So we're very selective. We always have spots open. So if anyone's interested, who has that high mortgage IQ and who really has the integrity to care about each client, each transaction, hey, I'm here to offer you a position.
That's right. Reach out. And that's part of the benefit of the podcast is, a lot of top real estate agents and mortgage loan officers are listening and trying to upgrade their own business and learn. So it's a great platform to potentially recruit some high quality talent. And happy to have you offer that, because the whole point of this podcast is to share secrets from top real estate professionals like yourself, and also to kind of connect them, bring the community a little closer together, and help top agents and mortgage loan officers get in touch with the right people. So with that being said, I have a question about where you think the industry is heading. So you mentioned innovation and really wanted to be on the cutting edge, and it seems like you have an in-house CTO who's also focused a lot on marketing and social media and doing a lot of innovative stuff. So where do you think the industry is heading? Like, what are your 5-10 year projections, and what are you doing now to set yourself up for future success?
As you know, being a veteran in the real estate market as overall, this industry is cyclical. There are going to be ups and downs. Nothing lasts forever. And, right now the market is really interesting. I think some of it is, really legitimate, based upon, what's going on in the world today. I mean, we just had an unprecedented event in COVID, and I think it really rocked people to their core in many different ways. But I do see some trends, people gravitating to the places that will support their personal views the best to, so people are moving all over the place, and it's all coasts. It's just, and it's like a frenzy. They can't wait to get out. For the people that want the vaccines, they can't wait to get to a place that supports it. For the people that don't, they can't wait to get to a place that supports it. Everyone's got a purpose, a really strong purpose with getting to where they want to go. I think people are looking for more space. I think people value the home they live in more than ever. I mean, more than ever, because, when you're stuck in it for extended periods of time, and your children, people are looking for some more outdoor space. Maybe, people are, it's just, everyone's got this personal push. And I don't see that slowing down in the very near future. So I think in the near term, we're all going to be really, really busy. I do think that will stabilize in the next 3 to 5 years. And when that stabilizes, I think that, you have to be prepared to maintain your passion for what you do, dig in and work hard. I mean, it's what I do every day. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've never had, even when the market was a mess, I always worked. And it's because, I really ensured that I honed my skill set. So I became very, very diversified, from, processing to underwriting to, really deep credit analysis. And I never lost the ability to interact on a direct sale. So I think people have to be prepared to roll their sleeves up. They have to be prepared to, change with the market shifts and changes. And, this is a great business. It's an amazing career. It has an incredible purpose, and it's hard work. So for those people that are working 3 hours a day, this idea of loan officer life, and they're at the beach half the time, that's probably going to change over the course of that, 10-year period. Enjoy it while you can, because this is just, it's hard work, and it's we have to continue with passion to serve our communities. And, we are preparing from a technological standpoint, as you said, my CTO. So we're in the process of all kinds of software development that takes forever. And, to ensure that we're prepared to transition to an acceptable level of digitalization. And, I think we have to be prepared for that. I think that's just, people who are, now in their teens are soon going to be in their 20s, and they're going to be the next generation of new home buyers. And, they're really, talk about immediate gratification. They want to push buttons and get an answer. That's just reality. So we have to prepare technologically to ensure that we can move through the market with paying attention to that, the needs of, again, the next generation of people who will be purchasing homes and refinancing homes, while acknowledging, it's going to be hard work. You have to get ready to roll your sleeves up. So that would be my synopsis
Projection.
of where I think the market's going.
Yeah, and I find it interesting that you focused more on the consumer behavior of the focus of the home, the needs of the home have kind of evolved, and then you focused on the loan officer's day-to-day life, rather than a lot of guests focus on macroeconomic trends or iBuyers or different tech moguls entering the space. And I like how your focus was more on the day-to-day of the consumer and the loan officer, because that's really what's going to be affected. And I think that your projections are pretty spot on. I mean, absolutely, the meaning of a house has forever been altered. Now, companies that were very old school and would never in a million years have offered remote work are noticing that, oh, hey, productivity actually kind of stabilized or improved when we let our employees work from home. Interesting. And so now there are hybrid remote work where someone that would have never been able to do that, would have driven an hour and a half to the city every day, or whatever their commute looked like, even if it's 30 minutes, it's 30 minutes away from their family. That means that they have to spend that extra time getting ready in the morning and getting gas and doing all the things. So really the home has become more of like a work-life play. A lot of, I know, especially on the East Coast, I've spoken to investors, there are massive developments that are focusing on work-life play, because a lot of the New York City shoebox apartments that were astronomical in price, now people don't necessarily desire that as much, because they don't have to go down the block or take a taxi to their big corporate job that pays really well. They could actually make the same amount of money and work, on a golf course, like outside the city, and visit whenever they want. And I also noticed that Facebook and a lot of the big tech companies are offering total remote, but then a reduced salary that makes sense for where they're working. So if they go somewhere that's half the living cost, they might get 75% of their salary. So there's still a huge profit margin there from the employee, but it's not like 100% of their salary in the city, right? And then now they're living in the Midwest, which is a $300,000 price point house. And it's not quite that sweet, but it's interesting to see it evolve and the meaning of the house evolve. And the need for extra rooms for offices or podcast studios or whatever it is, because of this whole digital revolution. And I think that COVID really just accelerated what would have happened anyway with the technological adoption of the real estate industry. It was going this way, and there were some innovators and some early adopters, but a lot of out-of-state buyers still weren't that comfortable with doing FaceTime or Zoom. And even just 2 years ago, I was across the city from a potential client, and he said, hey, let's figure out a day to meet. And it would have, taken both of us multiple hours out of the day to like go meet. And I was like, let's just do Zoom. And he was blown away that like 2 years ago, I offered that. And now it's second nature. Kids are going to Zoom school. Like everyone knows what it is, So I think it really accelerated the technological adoption. And you're right, the trends and behaviors are definitely evolving.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's so much that factors into it, but there's a lot going on, and the market is really amazingly busy. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. What are 1 to 3 books that have greatly influenced your life or career? You seem like you're relatively well-read, and you're a hard worker, and you work 16 hours a day and then eat oatmeal on the treadmill while you read a personal development book. Like, you seem like you're just on it, So what are some books that have, and they could be audiobooks, they could be, I don't know, whatever, but do you have any that come to mind?
That's a really interesting question, because what I read about might not seem like, inspirational to others, but one of the most incredible books I ever read that really stuck with me, believe it or not, it more has to do with, biographies and the lives of others. And I think it really gives me insight into, how other people live. One of the most impactful books of my life is Notes of a Native Son, written by James Baldwin, which was like so many years ago, and not at all for an entrepreneur, because I'm not driven or wired that way. I'm driven by my desire to connect with people on a significant level and understand human behavior and human needs. So it's a really strange book to be so impactful. Not that it's strange. I mean, it's amazingly impactful. You should grab it and read it sometime. It's about the life of someone who really was underprivileged. And it really drives my gratitude even more. But no, I can't recommend a powerful book that I would say really inspired me from a professional level, because I'm really driven by my spirit. So I'm constantly building my spirit, which then really organically just moves me in amazing directions. It always has. So I go back to the only thing I can, share with people. I don't know. I sprint out of bed at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm running to work. And I have 6 kids, and my older children work in my organization. So I have my son and my 2 daughters that work with me all day. My daughter, I have a 25-year-old, a 24-year-old, and an 18-year-old son who is currently in Israel for a gap year, but he was here while he was Zooming at school. I hope his rabbis are not listening to this. He was working full-time here while he was doing that, talking about that whole situation. So I'm extremely inspired by my ability to affect and connect with people. And that's where I start. That's my foundation. And I sprint out of bed at 5:30. I run to the office. If I have a commitment, I make it, whether it's East Coast and I'm on the West Coast. If someone needs me at 7:00 in the morning there, then I'll get up at 4. And that kind of organic push for me, that desire to, serve is really what drives me the most. I know it's unique and unusual. People have said to me, well, you can close so many more loans. I don't understand. Why not just position yourself here? And, you can, as we said, hire remotely and which I'm not opposed to remote. I'm with remote. It just has to be the right fit. Hire remotely and you can just scale. You have a great marketing platform. And, I'm just not interested in that. I'm more interested in ensuring that we build something that is really hyper-focused on service, and our foundation is really driven by that, serving our communities and, extending credit to the right people. It's really hard. If you look at things from a macro perspective, it's really hard to continue to maintain the integrity in every asset. And that's vital to me. It's vital to me that we grant loans to the right borrowers, and we provide those service levels without exception. And, we bring our professional and personal integrity to the table. So, and the books I read. So I read a lot about the Baal Shem Tov, who is the founder of the Hasidic movement in Judaism. I'll share that with everyone because that's been super impactful for me. I found it to be a really cool roadmap for life. I'm not religious, in any way. I think that, again, the whole movement is really rooted in service and accountability. And I think those are really, really important things. So I don't know if anyone wants to pick up any book that his teachings are in. It's incredible. It's proof that, there are incredible, powerful people that have been on this earth.
Absolutely. I find it interesting how self-aware you are of your need and driving factor to connect with other people. And I'm curious where that self-awareness came from. For me, actually, my relationship with others is the most important thing in business and in life. And I really concretely discovered that through something called the Core Values Index when I was at Cutco and I was doing management training for them. And so that's the only reason why I know that is because I was a merchant innovator. There was merchant, innovator, banker, driver. And it's kind of like the DISC profile, a little different, a little more rooted in core values. But that's how I know that. So how do you know that? Where did that realization of, I just want to be able to build relationships with people. And that's what makes me thrive and get up at 5 and not need coffee and just run to the office. Where did that discovery or that epiphany come from?
That's such a cool question. and I appreciate the opportunity to give you an answer. I was raised in a really incredible environment by really incredible people. I mean, I've probably, been exposed to all kinds of, workshops, and over the course of my lifetime, I wouldn't say one or the other impacted me in a really meaningful way. Mm-hmm. Other than, I grew up in a home, lived with my grandparents. My grandfather was a New York City fireman. He was also a Navy veteran. And, every day of my life, my exposure was really rooted in connecting with my family. He always told me, when you leave this house, you represent me. And that meant something. It meant something to me. So I always said hello. I always held the door. I always walked an old lady or an old man to their car. I always let someone go first, even if I was rushing. Obviously, their stuff was more important. It doesn't mean that I'm not aggressive and I won't go for mine. I do, but in a measured way. So I would say that comes from being raised by, amazing people. I mean, we had Sunday dinners without fail, and there were 30 of us. I'm best friends with my cousins who needed friends. I had cousins, and I was raised in an environment like that. So, going out of your way when you didn't feel like it wasn't a question. You had to feel like it. You had to show up. If you showed up at your aunt's house, you brought flowers. You stopped at the store because that's what you did. So it became a way of life for me. And, I recently had a conversation with someone about purpose. And, I realized the only thing, I have 6 children, and, purpose is a very important thing because, someday, God willing, at 120, when I leave this earth, I want to leave them understanding what purpose means and what we're supposed to leave here. Because, I know a lot of people that have been hugely successful in business, a lot of people that have been hugely successful in life, but finding people that have been hugely successful in both is really challenging. And I find that it all comes down to purpose, and I feel like my purpose on this earth, in this world, is to affect people in a positive way and connect. And I gained so much from those connections. I learned so much from everyone I encounter. And, I'm very grateful for that. And that drives me every day. And I hope for future generations, it'll drive my kids and their kids, and the same way my grandfather instilled it in me. So
amazing. Really appreciate you sharing that. And you clearly have become a product of your environment, which is amazing. And with that, I discovered my purpose years ago when I was working like a maniac, manager at Cutco, literally working 100 hours a week as a 19-year-old. And I discovered that there's this insatiable fuel in me when I'm acting in my purpose, and what a powerful thing to know and understand at a young age. So I realized that my purpose is to inspire others to pursue their dreams by leading through my own example. And the latter part of that sentence is really the most important part, because when someone says you inspired me, to me, that is just the sweetest music to my ears, right? That's that statement that just lights me up for I'm so glad. And every single time that someone had said that to me, it was because of the actions I had taken. So I had to really get concrete and focused on okay, I need to pursue my dreams. And in that process, then I will be able to inspire others, right? So it's really powerful when you can live in that. And I totally agree with you that understanding purpose and, what that is for you, whatever that is, it's a very powerful thing to understand, and an amazing driving force.
I mean, that's incredible. Most people never tap into it. And I will say, for me, it allows me to constantly be available. I have this unbelievable, well of energy to give. Right. So it's my underwriters, my MLOs, my, people in my marketing department, I feel really compelled because I'm so passionate about what I do to share that knowledge, to share it, to take the time to have a real conversation. Somebody will ask me a question about a loan. And of course it's single facet. It's a flat question. And, I always read into the question and get into it. And they're like, how did you know that was even happening? And I said, because I know there's the caveat to it and I don't want you to get caught up in it. And then it negatively impact your transaction later. Like I always try my best to share whatever knowledge I can in every conversation. So like you're saying, I mean, purpose is important. And I feel like sharing knowledge is so important, even with borrowers and realtors alike. Like, selling agents, I get on the phone with them because loan officers can be intimidated by it. They're a little concerned. They're nervous. They don't want to say the wrong thing. So I get on the phone with them and they're shocked that I would take the time to call them. And I think that's the most ridiculous thing. Everyone should take the time to call them. I think it's really important. Again, back to, just having the opportunity to connect with people in a meaningful way. And I've made a lot of very, very important relationships and I've learned so much. I learned multiple new things a day because of that. It's great.
I love that. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. And I have to ask if there's a question that I should have asked you or anything that you'd like to elaborate on from earlier.
Gosh, there's probably so many, but, I think the one question would be, I think we did talk about it, was really that push for technology in our business, right? I mean, I'd love to ask you a question. You have so much exposure. Like, where do you see in the next 5 years? Where do you see it going?
So technology is here to stay. I mean, think about where we're at today compared to 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we had flip phones. We literally were like promoting the Razor.
Yeah.
Like it was the hottest thing.
Crazy.
And now we have supercomputers in our pocket, more advanced than what the president had in the 70s available, like the head of state. So it's pretty incredible what we have at our resources today, not to mention 5G being the most short-term enhancement to that, because the 5G network will allow for everything to be higher quality video, higher quality advertising, higher quality virtual reality. I mean, if we're talking future and technology and where the eyeballs are going to be, because what is advertising? It's really getting in front of people where they're watching, hearing, seeing, right? I really think that in the next 5 years, we'll see a major increase in virtual reality and the metaverse, as Facebook has deemed it. And that combined with a very interesting financial tool called an NFT, a non-fungible token. This is maybe like over the head of a lot of listeners, but what I find interesting is that NFTs currently are a playground for the rich. And basically what it is, it's something that can't be duplicated as far as the original copy, but it's a digital form of art. And so when it comes to digital real estate, and you imagine having a virtual reality mansion in the new Hollywood Hills that you like put an Oculus headset on, you log into, and this is your mansion. And there's only so many. There's a finite amount of it. Well, I know investors, interestingly, that are buying digital real estate, saying it's like the next frontier. So I think there's a lot of interesting things happening outside the box. But what that comes down to for me is where are the eyeballs going to be? And how do we advertise to people on these platforms? Because it's going to be funded by ads. It's how the world goes round. So, how are we going to be able to connect with and get in touch with the next version of borrowers that will be purchasing homes with cryptocurrency, with a direct transfer internationally? So we're having subscriptions to and living a nomadic life and having fractional ownership of 8 properties rather than owning one. There's all kinds of very interesting things down the pipe, but we only have a minute left till my next podcast, so we'll have to end it there.
Yeah, I would love to hear more about that. That's so incredibly amazing. Your answer is like, my brain is all over the place and I can't even wait to like think through what you just said. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
For that.
So how can listeners contact you?
They can reach me at my email, Tabitha, Tabitha at mbanc.com.
Awesome.
That's the best way, or, through our Instagram account, which is, I don't know off the top of my head.
I'll link to it below. I'll find you and I'll link to it.
Yes, and Facebook.
Of course.
Yeah.
Tabitha Mazzara, everyone. Really interesting conversation. I love the focus on connection relationships. And I mean, you're doing significant transaction volume, 70, 80 million a month. That's solid. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I really love the focus on connection and relationships, and I'm sure we'll be talking more. So thank you so much for being on today and sharing everything.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. It was amazing. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. If you want to accomplish your real estate goals, then I highly suggest downloading my free Ultimate Real Estate Goal Setting Framework. The link is in the description of the show, and it will help you break down your annual income goal into the amount of phone calls, appointments, or open houses you need in order to achieve that goal. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.